Today, we're going to look at the MoonWalker MT5 Expert Advisor by Mr. Wei Tu. This video is sponsored by our free Golden Time Bomb Expert Advisor. Take your trading to the next level through automating the London breakout and the opening range breakout. Click the link in the description to download the EA completely for free. So one of my clients actually asked me to look into this because he's been having really good results with it on some of his accounts. And Wei Tu actually is a very good developer. They're fairly under the radar, but when they make bots, they tend to actually be really solid, and they know how to trade. So always curious to dive into some of their creations. And this one here appears to be a night scalper on currencies, to be precise. And as we can see here, we have quite a few of the more meaner version style currencies like the Aussie CAD, the Euro franc, and even the dollar franc. And it says to be using like various multiple exit mechanisms, and that it generally speaking follows strategies with high win rates. So yes, that's to be expected with night scalpers. You're usually going to be running a mean reversion system. Therefore, I would expect to see a very high win rate. A low risk reward is also pretty common. You tend to have inverted risk rewards, and so far it looks to be like a pretty straightforward night scalper. And as we can see here, they're suggesting that you run it on a whole variety of pairs so that you're able to have additional diversification. And this shows us a classic strategy quant backtester. It looks a little bit too good to be true because we're seeing like an absolutely insane profit factor with I think the drawdown here is 624% with a 6% drawdown. I venture he tested using 1 minute open, high, low, close or some sort of like overly optimistic backtesting scenario, but you can't really fault him because that is usually like standard practice on MT5. From what I can see so far, there's no live signal. So the reason why I'm making this video is because one of my clients, who's a smart guy, said like, hey, I've been using it for a long time and I've been seeing good results. But you never know, right? Like it could just be, not that I don't trust the gentleman, it's more like maybe he's been using it for a few good months and perhaps it's not going to necessarily perform super well going forward. Now, if we open up MT5, I've taken the liberty of downloading it and running a backtest in the Eurodollar. I haven't been able to get a super profitable strategy to work so far using, and I've tested on several different pairs. The auto lot function as well was pretty glitchy in my opinion. Like I tried putting in all the symbol lists with suffixes up here and down there as well. It just didn't work. So I'm not quite sure what the developer is looking at there. And if you run the backtest, you can see this is clearly not profitable. And if we tried on a few other pairs, like this was 1 minute open, high, low, close. But if we tried with like every tick based on real ticks, it's also, at least from some other pairs, were not particularly profitable. So it's looking to be pretty similar actually, which is a good sign. But yeah, I guess maybe it's just a current bad period of performance. But to date, I'm a little bit perplexed that why the results are seemingly good for people, but we're not getting those results here live. So let me run it 1 minute open, high, low, close since 2020, just to get a better idea. Okay, so this makes a bit more sense. So it could very well be that it's just this past year has been a bit choppy for it, maybe with all the crazy volatility we've seen with the Trump tariffs, particularly anything euro-based. The euro's really been on a rip as of late, so that would kind of make sense, whereas it also has these long periods of kind of fairly smooth equity curves. So yeah, it does. That does make a fair amount of sense to me. And if we put it here on the H1 to see how it's performing, it's very clearly a night scalper. If we look at the times, like yeah, it's executing is holding over the night period. So this style of system can work really well, but like I, for instance, had a night scalper too, which was just not doing particularly well over this period. So I actually discontinued it because a lot of the volatility we're seeing, particularly in the spread hours, is not amazing for this style of system, because it has been like historically those 2 hours around the evening are usually super boring, but at least recently there's been a lot of news events which kind of take place in the evening hours of New York session, like in no small part due to President Trump enjoying tweeting at those times, and then the market just like pukes randomly at 6 p.m. And many of these night scalping systems are not superly adept at that. So in terms of strategy, it's a real strategy. It's a night scalper, meaner version. This is a classic style of system. It works really well, but in the current market environment, I would be a bit apprehensive of using it just because the level of volatility we're seeing in the spread hours is pretty bad. But generally speaking, it's a good style of strategy. Like night scalpers can work really well. You just have to kind of match them to the correct regime. And the majority of the assets here that he's choosing also makes sense. And the fact that he's taking more like of a portfolio approach where he's running different pairs, being a bit more selective with the exact trade entries, but stacking them together, that's really smart. So if you were looking to do this style of system, running a whole broad basket of pairs, running them in like a real like non-martingale, non-grid style system, and then kind of combining them in a portfolio is a great approach. So overall, I think when Mr. Wei developed this, like this is an older bot too. It's been out since 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Pardon me, 2022. So it's been on the market for a while. Like I think when he developed it, this would make a lot of sense, particularly in 2022 when it was more like a very choppy kind of bearish period in most equity markets. It was not the most volatile time for many currencies. It was a much more kind of boring geopolitical regime during that time period as well. Like not completely boring, obviously, but at least in the US and Europe, it was a little bit more just kind of generic, right? And because of that, we saw that the style of system would have been more appropriate back then. Just in the current market environment, probably not the best bet. But so I'll wrap for the video. It's a bit of a shorter one today. Portfolio approach, really smart. Night scalper, really smart. Way too great developer. He knows what he's doing. But probably not the best time to run this exact style of system. So guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.